Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about something that might just change your life. It's a simple idea, but one that's so powerful it could transform the way you experience success, joy, and fulfillment. Are you ready? Here it is. Keep your mouth shut whenever you are happy. Now I know what you're thinking. What? That doesn't make any sense. When I'm happy, I want to shout it from the rooftops. And believe me, I understand that feeling. But let me tell you why this counterintuitive advice might be the key to unlocking even greater happiness and success in your life. You see, in this world of constant noise, social media, and oversharing, we have lost something precious. We have lost the art of savoring our moments of joy. We have forgotten how to hold on to our happiness, nurture it, and let it grow within us. Instead, we are always in a rush to tell everyone about it, to post it online, to get validation from others. But in doing so, we often let that happiness slip right through our fingers. Think about it for a moment. When was the last time you experienced pure, unadulterated joy and just kept it to yourself? When did you last allow yourself to bask in the warm glow of happiness without immediately reaching for your phone to share it with the world? Now, I'm not saying you should never share your happiness. Far from it. But what I am saying is that there's immense power in learning to hold on to your joy, to let it simmer and grow within you before you let it out into the world. Let me give you an example. Imagine you have just achieved a major goal you have been working towards for years. Maybe you have finally started that business you have been dreaming of, or you have reached your ideal weight after months of disciplined diet and exercise. What's your first instinct? For many of us, it's to immediately share the news with everyone we know. But what if instead you took a moment to sit with that feeling of accomplishment? What if you allowed yourself to really feel the weight of your achievement, to let it sink in and become a part of you? By keeping your mouth shut in that moment of happiness, you are not diminishing your joy. You are amplifying it. You see, happiness is like a rare and delicate flower. If you pluck it too soon and pass it around, it might wilt before you have had a chance to fully appreciate its beauty. But if you nurture it, if you give it time to grow roots within you, it can blossom into something truly magnificent. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but is not sharing our happiness a way of spreading joy to others? And you are absolutely right. Sharing our joy can be a beautiful thing. But here's the catch. When we are too quick to share, we often do so from a place of seeking validation rather than genuinely wanting to uplift others. Think about social media for a moment. How many times have you posted about a happy moment in your life and then found yourself constantly checking for likes and comments? How many times has the joy of the moment been overshadowed by the anxiety of waiting for others to acknowledge your happiness? This is the trap we fall into when we don't learn to keep our mouths shut when we are happy. We become dependent on external validation for our joy. And let me tell you, my friends, that's a dangerous road to go down. True happiness, lasting happiness, comes from within. It's not about how many people know about your success or how many likes your post gets. It's about how deeply you allow yourself to experience and internalize your own joy. Let me share a little secret with you. Some of the happiest, most successful people I know are also some of the quietest about their achievements. They don't need to broadcast their every win. They don't need constant affirmation from others. They've learned the art of silent satisfaction, of quiet confidence. These people understand a fundamental truth, that the louder you have to speak about your happiness, the less secure you actually are in it. They know that true contentment doesn't need an audience, that doesn't need applause. It simply needs to be felt deeply and sincerely. Now, I'm not saying you should become a recluse or never share good news with your loved ones. That's not the point at all. What I'm advocating for is a shift in perspective, a change in your initial reaction to happiness. Instead of immediately reaching for your phone or running to tell someone when something good happens, Try this. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Feel the happiness coursing through your body. Let it fill you up from your toes to the top of your head. Savor it. Cherish it. Make it a part of you. By doing this, you are not just experiencing happiness. You are internalizing it. You are turning it from a fleeting emotion into a part of your character. And that, my friends, is how you build lasting joy and success. You know, success is a funny thing. We often think of it as this big, flashy achievement that everyone needs to know about. But the truth is, real success is quiet. It's personal. It's the satisfaction of knowing you have done your best, regardless of whether anyone else notices. When you learn to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you are also learning to find satisfaction in the process, not just the outcome. You are learning to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. And that's where true success lies. If you think about some of the most successful people in history, did they achieve greatness by constantly talking about how great they were? No. They achieved greatness by putting their heads down, doing the work, and finding joy in the process. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but what about celebrating our achievements? Is not that important? And you are absolutely right. Celebration is important, but here's the thing. When you learn to internalize your happiness, when you learn to find joy in the process rather than just the outcome, every day becomes a celebration. You don't need a big party or a flashy social media post to feel successful. You can find that feeling of success in the quiet moments of your day, in the satisfaction of a job well done, in the knowledge that you are making progress towards your goals, in the simple joy of being alive and having the opportunity to pursue your dreams. This is the kind of success that lasts. It's not dependent on others' approval or recognition. It's not at the mercy of external circumstances. It's a deep, abiding sense of contentment and accomplishment that comes from within. You know, one of the most beautiful things about learning to keep your mouth shut when you are happy is how it can transform your relationships. When you are not constantly seeking validation from others, when you're not always trying to prove your happiness or success, something magical happens. You become more present. You become a better listener. You become more attuned to the joys and struggles of those around you. How many times have you been in a conversation where someone is sharing something important, but you are just waiting for your turn to speak, to share your own story of happiness or success? We have all been there. But when you learn to hold on to your own joy, to savor it privately, you create space to truly engage with others. You will find that your relationships become deeper, more meaningful, because instead of always trying to prove your own happiness, you are able to genuinely celebrate the happiness of others. And let me tell you, there's no greater joy than being able to wholeheartedly rejoice in someone else's success without feeling the need to one-up them or bring the conversation back to yourself. This is how you build lasting, meaningful connections. This is how you become the kind of person others want to be around. Not because you are always talking about your own happiness, but because you are genuinely interested in theirs. When I say keep your mouth shut when you are happy, I'm not advocating for suppressing your emotions or never sharing good news. That's not healthy, and it's not what we are talking about here. What we're talking about is learning to find contentment within yourself first. It's about building a strong foundation of inner joy that doesn't depend on external validation. Because here's the truth. If you can't be happy with your achievements in private, no amount of public recognition will ever be enough. Think about it like this. Happiness is like a well inside you. Every time something good happens, it adds a little water to that well. Now you have two choices. You can immediately splash that water around, showing everyone how full your well is. Or you can let it settle, let it seep deep into the ground, nourishing your roots and making your well deeper and more resilient. When you keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you are choosing the second option. You are allowing your joy to strengthen you from the inside out. And the beautiful thing is, the deeper your well becomes, the more you have to share with others when the time is right. This brings me to another crucial point. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with images of other people's happiness and success. Social media has created a culture where everyone seems to be living their best life all the time. And if we are not careful, this can lead to a lot of unnecessary stress and anxiety. But when you learn to keep your mouth shut, when you are happy, you free yourself from this cycle of comparison and validation seeking. You no longer feel the need to prove your happiness to anyone. You no longer feel the pressure to make your life look perfect on the outside. Instead, you can focus on what really matters, living a life that's fulfilling to you, regardless of how it looks to others. You can pursue your goals with quiet determination, finding joy in the process rather than just the end result. And here's the irony. When you stop trying so hard to appear happy and successful, that's often when true happiness and success find you. Because you are no longer chasing an image or an ideal, you are simply living your life, doing your best, and finding contentment in your own journey. When you learn to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you are also building an incredible source of strength for the tough times. Life is not always sunshine and rainbows. We all face challenges, setbacks, and disappointments. But when you have learned to internalize your joy, when you have built up that deep well of happiness within yourself, you have a reservoir of strength to draw from when things get tough. Think about it. If your happiness is always dependent on external factors, on people's approval, on things going exactly as planned, what happens when those things are taken away? But if you have learned to find joy within yourself, if you have practiced savoring your happiness in private, you will find that you are much more resilient in the face of adversity. You will have the strength to weather the storms of life because you know that your happiness is not determined by your circumstances. It's a part of who you are, a strength you have cultivated within yourself. This is why keeping your mouth shut when you are happy is so powerful. It's not just about the good times. It's about building a foundation that will support you through all of life's ups and downs. You know, one of the most interesting side effects of learning to keep your mouth shut when you are happy is how it changes the way you set and pursue your goals. When you are not constantly seeking validation from others, when you are not always chasing the next big announcement or social media post, you start to set goals for the right reasons. You start to pursue things because they truly matter to you, not because they will impress others or look good on paper. Think about some of the goals you have set in the past. How many of them were driven by a genuine desire for personal growth or fulfillment? And how many were influenced by what you thought others expected of you, or what would make for a good story to share? When you learn to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you naturally start to focus on the former. You set goals that align with your values, that excite you on a deep personal level. And here's the beautiful thing. When you are pursuing goals for the right reasons, you are much more likely to achieve them. Why? Because you are not dependent on external motivation. You are not waiting for likes or comments or praise to keep you going. You are driven by an internal fire, a quiet determination that keeps burning even when no one else can see it. This is the kind of motivation that lasts. It's the kind of drive that gets you up early in the morning and keeps you working late into the night, not because you are trying to prove anything to anyone, but because you genuinely love what you are doing. And you know what? When you approach your goals this way, success becomes almost inevitable because you are not just working towards an end result. You are falling in love with the process. You are finding joy in the journey, not just the destination. This brings me to another important point. In our fast-paced, instant gratification world, we have lost something valuable: the ability to delay our reactions, to sit with our emotions before we act on them. When something good happens, our first instinct is often to share it immediately. We want that rush of likes and comments, that immediate validation. But in doing so, we often rob ourselves of the chance to fully process and appreciate our own achievements. By keeping your mouth shut when you're happy, you are giving yourself the gift of time. Time to reflect on what you have accomplished. Time to consider what this achievement means for your future. Time to simply bask in the glow of your own success without worrying about how others will perceive. This pause, this moment of reflection, is incredibly powerful. It allows you to integrate your success into your sense of self. It gives you the opportunity to set new, meaningful goals based on what you have learned and achieved. And here's another benefit. When you do, eventually share your success. Because remember, we are not saying you should never share. Your sharing comes from a place of genuine desire to connect or inspire, not from a need for validation. And believe me, people can feel the difference. Now, I want to address something that might be on some of your minds. You might be thinking, but is not sharing our happiness a way of inspiring others? Is not it a way of spreading positivity in the world? And you are absolutely right. Sharing our joy and our successes can be a powerful way to lift others up. But here's the key. It's all about the intention behind the sharing. When we share from a place of needing validation or approval, it often falls flat. It can even have the opposite effect, making others feel inadequate or resentful. But when we share from a place of genuine abundance, when we have already fully appreciated and internalized our own happiness, that's when our sharing becomes truly inspirational. It's the difference between saying, "Look at me, aren't I great?" and saying, "This is possible for you too. Let me show you how." The first comes from a place of ego and insecurity. The second comes from a place of genuine desire to uplift others. By learning to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, by giving yourself time to fully process and appreciate your own joy, you are actually setting yourself up to be a more powerful source of inspiration when you do choose to share. Let's talk about authenticity for a moment. You know, in today's world of carefully curated social media profiles and personal branding, it can be hard to know what's real anymore. We are all trying so hard to present our best selves to the world that we sometimes lose touch with who we really are. But when you learn to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you are taking a stand for authenticity. You are saying, "I don't need to prove my worth to anyone. I don't need to constantly showcase my happiness or success. I am enough just as I am." This is incredibly powerful because in a world that's constantly telling us we need to be more, do more, have more, there's something revolutionary about being content with who you are and what you have right now. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more comfortable you become with keeping your happiness to yourself, the more genuine and authentic you become in your interactions with others. Because you are no longer trying to prove anything. You are no longer putting on a show. You are simply being yourself, comfortable in your own skin, secure in your own joy. This authenticity is magnetic. It draws people to you. It builds trust. It creates deeper, more meaningful connections because people can sense when you are being real, when you're not just trying to impress them or get something from them. Now, I want to talk about something that might seem counterintuitive at first. You might be thinking, if I keep my mouth shut when I'm happy, won't I miss out on opportunities to celebrate with others? Won't I be isolating myself? But here's the thing. Learning to keep your mouth shut when you're happy doesn't mean you never share your joy. It just means you are more intentional about when and how you share it. Think about it like this. When you immediately share every bit of good news or every happy moment, it can actually diminish the impact. It's like eating your favorite dessert every single day. Eventually, it loses its specialness. But when you learn to savor your happiness privately first, when you give yourself time to fully appreciate it before sharing, you are actually setting yourself up for more meaningful celebrations when you do choose to share. Imagine throwing a party to celebrate a major achievement. If you have been constantly updating everyone on every little step of progress, the party might feel a bit anticlimactic. But if you have been quietly working towards your goal, savoring each small victory privately, that celebration becomes so much more powerful. Your joy is deeper, more authentic, and your friends and family can genuinely share in your excitement because it's fresh and new to them. This is the power of keeping your mouth shut when you are happy. It's not about never sharing or celebrating. It's about creating space for more meaningful, more impactful moments of connection and celebration. Now, let's talk about productivity for a moment. You might be surprised to learn that keeping your mouth shut when you are happy can actually make you more productive. How? Well, it all comes down to focus and energy management. When we are constantly sharing our successes, we are often doing it to get a quick hit of dopamine from the likes, comments, and congratulations. But this can become a distraction. We start checking our phones more often. We get pulled into conversations about our achievements. We spend time crafting the perfect post or update. All this takes time and mental energy away from the actual work that led to that success in the first place. But when you learn to keep your happiness to yourself, you free up that time and energy to focus on what really matters, continuing to do great work. Think about some of the most prolific inventors, artists, or entrepreneurs in history. They didn't achieve greatness by constantly talking about their progress. They achieved it by putting their heads down and doing the work, day in and day out, finding joy in the process rather than in the accolades. This brings me to another important point. The concept of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. When we are always sharing our happiness and successes, we can become overly reliant on external validation. We start to need the likes, the comments, the congratulations to feel good about what we have accomplished. But true, lasting motivation comes from within. It comes from the satisfaction of doing good work, of making progress towards our goals, of living in alignment with our values. When you keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you are training yourself to find that intrinsic motivation. You are learning to be satisfied with your achievements, regardless of whether anyone else knows about them or approves of them. And let me tell you, this is a superpower, because when your motivation comes from within, you become unstoppable. You are no longer at the mercy of others' opinions or validation. You can keep pushing forward, keep growing, keep achieving, fueled by your own inner drive. Now, I want to address something that might be a concern for some of you. You might be thinking, but if I keep my mouth shut when I'm happy, won't I miss out on opportunities? Won't people not know what I'm capable of? This is a valid concern, but here's the thing. True capability shines through in your actions, not your words. When you are doing great work, when you are consistently delivering results, people notice. You don't need to trumpet your own success. Your work will speak for itself. In fact, there's something incredibly powerful about quiet confidence. When you are secure enough in your own abilities and achievements that you don't need to constantly talk about them, it makes a strong impression on others. It makes them curious. It makes them want to know more about you and what you are capable of. Think about some of the most respected people in your field. Chances are they're not the ones constantly bragging about their achievements or posting about every little success on social media. They're the ones who consistently do great work, who lead by example, who let their actions speak louder than their words. This brings us to an important point about leadership. You see, when you learn to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you are also learning an invaluable leadership skill, the ability to celebrate others. When you're not constantly focused on your own achievements, you create space to notice and appreciate the achievements of those around you. You become the kind of leader who lifts others up, who shines a spotlight on your team's successes rather than always seeking the limelight for yourself. And let me tell you, this kind of leadership is transformative. It builds loyalty, it fosters a positive team culture, and it ultimately leads to greater success for everyone involved. Because when people feel seen and appreciated, when they know their hard work will be recognized, they're motivated to give their very best. Now let's talk about personal growth for a moment. One of the most powerful aspects of keeping your mouth shut when you are happy is how it accelerates your personal growth journey. You see, when we are quick to share every success, every happy moment, we often skip over the crucial step of self-reflection. We don't take the time to really understand what led to that success, what we learned from the experience, how we can apply those lessons going forward. But when you give yourself that pause, when you keep your happiness to yourself for a while, you create space for deep, meaningful reflection. You can ask yourself important questions. What did I do well? What could I have done better? What did I learn from this experience? How can I apply these lessons to future challenges? This kind of reflection is where real growth happens. It's how you turn each success into a stepping stone for even greater achievements. It's how you develop wisdom and insight that goes beyond just accumulating accomplishments. And here's another benefit. When you are not quick to share every success, you are also better equipped to handle setbacks and failures because you have learned to find satisfaction in the process, not just the outcome. You are more resilient when things don't go as planned. You don't need external validation to know your own worth. You can face challenges with quiet confidence, knowing that every experience, whether perceived as a success or a failure, is an opportunity for growth. This resilience, this ability to learn and grow from every experience, is what sets truly successful people apart. It's not about never failing. It's about how you respond to those failures, how you learn from them, how you use them as fuel for future success. Now, I want to talk about something that might seem a bit contradictory at first. While we are advocating for keeping your mouth shut when you are happy, I also want to stress the importance of gratitude. You see, there's a big difference between boasting about your happiness and quietly acknowledging your blessings. Gratitude is not about showing off or seeking validation. It's about recognizing and appreciating the good things in your life, both big and small. When you keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you create space for deep, genuine gratitude. Instead of immediately broadcasting your joy to the world, take a moment to simply be thankful for it. Appreciate the circumstances that led to this moment of happiness. Be grateful for the people who supported you along the way, for the opportunities you've been given for your own hard work and perseverance. This practice of gratitude is incredibly powerful. It amplifies your happiness, it helps you maintain perspective during tough times, and it attracts more positivity into your life. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need to shout your gratitude from the rooftops for it to have an impact. A quiet, heartfelt thank you, whether to yourself, to a higher power, or to the people who've supported you, can be far more meaningful than a public display of appreciation. Let's talk about the concept of delayed gratification for a moment. In our instant gratification world, the ability to delay reward is becoming increasingly rare and increasingly valuable. When you learn to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you are essentially practicing delayed gratification. You are resisting the urge for immediate validation and reward, choosing instead to savor your happiness privately. This skill, the ability to delay gratification, is incredibly powerful. Studies have shown that people who are able to delay gratification tend to be more successful in various areas of life, from academic achievement to financial stability to personal relationships. By practicing this skill in the context of your happiness, you are strengthening your self-control muscle. You are training yourself to think long-term, to prioritize deeper satisfaction over quick hits of pleasure. And this skill will serve you well in all areas of your life. Now I want to address something that some of you might be concerned about. You might be thinking, but if I keep my mouth shut when I'm happy, won't I come across as cold or unemotional? This is a common misconception, but let me assure you, keeping your mouth shut when you are happy doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or never expressing joy. It's about being more intentional with how and when you express that joy. In fact, when you learn to savor your happiness privately, you often become more genuinely expressive when you do choose to share. Your joy becomes deeper, more authentic, more contagious, because it's not coming from a place of needing validation or attention. It's coming from a place of genuine, overflowing happiness. Think about someone you know who's always posting about how happy they are, always talking about their successes. Now think about someone who's more reserved, but who lights up with genuine joy when they share good news. Which one feels more authentic to you? Which one's happiness is more contagious? This brings us to an important point about emotional intelligence. You see, learning to keep your mouth shut when you are happy is actually an exercise in developing greater emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence involves several key skills: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. When you practice keeping your happiness to yourself, you are developing all of these skills. You become more self-aware as you learn to recognize and appreciate your own emotions without needing external validation. You improve your self-regulation as you resist the urge to immediately share every positive feeling. Your motivation becomes more intrinsic, driven by personal satisfaction rather than external praise. And perhaps most importantly, you develop greater empathy and social skills. When you are not always focused on sharing your own happiness, you become more attuned to the emotions of those around you. You become a better listener, a more supportive friend, a more effective leader. This emotional intelligence is invaluable in all areas of life. In your personal relationships, in your professional life, in your own personal growth journey. It's the foundation for deep, meaningful connections with others and for a rich, fulfilling life. Now let's talk about the concept of mindfulness for a moment. Mindfulness is all about being fully present in the moment, aware of your thoughts and feelings without judgment. And in many ways, keeping your mouth shut when you are happy is an exercise in mindfulness. When you resist the urge to immediately share your happiness, you create space to fully experience it. You can pay attention to how joy feels in your body, the lightness in your chest, the smile on your face, the energy coursing through you. You can observe the thoughts that accompany your happiness without getting caught up in planning how to share it or wondering how others will react. This mindful approach to happiness allows you to experience it more deeply. It helps you create stronger, more vivid memories of your happy moments. And it helps you carry that happiness with you, allowing it to color your experiences and interactions throughout the day. Moreover, this practice of mindfulness can spill over into other areas of your life. As you become more accustomed to observing your happiness without immediately reacting to it, you may find yourself better able to handle difficult emotions as well. You may become more patient, more centered, more resilient in the face of challenges. Let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the impact of social media on our happiness. In today's digital age, we are constantly bombarded with carefully curated highlight reels of other people's lives. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparison, to feel like we need to prove our own happiness and success to the world. But here's the truth. The happiest people are often those who don't feel the need to prove their happiness to anyone. They're secure enough in their own joy that they don't need likes or comments or shares to validate it. When you learn to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you are freeing yourself from this cycle of social media validation. You are saying, my happiness is not for show. It's not a performance. It's a personal, precious thing that I get to experience fully without worrying about how it looks to others. This doesn't mean you can never share positive moments on social media, but it does mean being more intentional about what you share and why. Are you sharing to genuinely connect with others and spread positivity? Or are you sharing because you need validation and approval? By asking yourself these questions, by being more mindful about your social media use, you can create a healthier relationship with these platforms. You can use them as tools for connection and inspiration rather than as stages for performing your happiness. And we are quick to share every bit of good news, every happy moment. It often comes from a place of scarcity. We are afraid that if we don't showcase our happiness, people won't know about it, or worse, they will forget about us. But when you learn to keep your mouth shut, when you are happy, you are operating from a place of abundance. You are saying, I have so much joy, so much success in my life that I don't need to announce every bit of it. I can hold on to some of it just for myself. This abundance mentality is incredibly powerful. It allows you to approach life with a sense of confidence and security. You are not constantly seeking approval or validation because you know your own worth. You are not afraid of missing out because you trust that there's plenty of success and happiness to go around. When you operate from this place of abundance, when you are not constantly trying to prove your happiness or success, you often attract more of both into your life because you are not coming from a place of neediness or insecurity. You are coming from a place of genuine confidence and contentment. In our noisy world, we often underestimate the value of silence. We feel the need to fill every moment with words, with posts, with constant communication. But silence can be incredibly powerful. When you keep your mouth shut, when you are happy, you are creating space for silence. And in that silence, amazing things can happen. You give yourself time to fully experience your emotions. You allow insights and ideas to bubble up from your subconscious. You create space for deeper connections with others as you become a better listener and a more observant friend or colleague. Moreover, your silence in moments of happiness can speak volumes. It can communicate a quiet confidence, a deep contentment that doesn't need words. It can make people curious, draw them to you, make them want to know more about what's behind your peaceful smile. Remember, the most powerful people are often those who speak the least. They choose their words carefully, making each one count. By learning to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, you are joining their ranks. You are becoming someone whose words carry weight because they're not constantly filling the air with chatter. Now, I want to address something that some of you might be wondering about. You might be thinking, but is not sharing our happiness a way of inspiring others? Is not it our responsibility to spread positivity in the world? And you're absolutely right. Sharing joy and inspiration is a beautiful thing. It's all about the intention behind the sharing. When we share our happiness from a place of needing validation or approval, it often falls flat. It can even have the opposite effect, making others feel inadequate or resentful. But when we share from a place of genuine abundance, when we have already fully appreciated and internalized our own happiness, that's when our sharing becomes truly inspirational. It's the difference between saying, "Look at me, aren't I great?" and saying, "This is possible for you too. Let me show you how." The first comes from a place of ego and insecurity. The second comes from a place of genuine desire to uplift others. By learning to keep your mouth shut when you are happy, by giving yourself time to fully process and appreciate your own joy, you are actually setting yourself up to be a more powerful source of inspiration when you do choose to share. The concept of energy for a moment. You know, happiness is a form of energy, and like all forms of energy, it follows certain laws. One of these laws is that energy flows where attention goes. When you immediately share your happiness with others, you are directing that energy outward. You are seeking a response, a reaction from the external world. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with this, it can sometimes dilute the power of that happiness. But when you keep your mouth shut, when you are happy, you are directing that energy inward. You are allowing it to circulate within you, to nourish you from the inside out. You are giving it time to build, to grow stronger before you let it out into the world. Think of it like charging a battery. If you use your phone while it's charging, it takes longer to reach full power. But if you leave it alone, it charges faster and more efficiently. The same principle applies to your happiness. By keeping it to yourself initially, you are allowing it to charge up to full power within you. When you do eventually share that happiness, it's so much more powerful. It's not a fleeting moment of joy that dissipates as soon as you post about it on social media. It's a deep, abiding sense of contentment that radiates from you, affecting everyone you come into contact with. The concept of personal power for a moment. You see, there's incredible power in being able to keep a secret, even if that secret is your own happiness. When you can experience joy, achieve success, make progress towards your goals, all without needing to immediately tell the world about it, you are exercising a form of self-control that is truly empowering. You are saying, "This happiness belongs to me. I don't need anyone else's approval or acknowledgement to make it real or valid. This is personal power at its finest. It's the power to be content with your own approval, the power to find satisfaction in your achievements without needing external validation, the power to be your own biggest fan and harshest critic. This personal power is transformative. It changes the way you approach challenges, the way you handle setbacks, the way you celebrate victories, because you are no longer dependent on others' reactions to gauge your own success or happiness. You have an internal compass, a deep well of self-assurance that guides you. And here's the amazing thing. This personal power doesn't just benefit you. It benefits everyone around you. Because when you are secure in your own happiness, when you don't need constant validation or approval, you become a rock for others. You become someone who can genuinely celebrate other successes without feeling threatened. You become a source of quiet strength that others can lean on.